Hi, we'd like to welcome everyone this evening to our Google Classroom Intermediate webinar. My name is Rosie Castle.
And I'm Larissa Uceda.
And so thanks for joining us. And we will go ahead and get started. We just want to make sure that you have gotten logged in to your e-learning and you've gotten the webinar playing, and that you made sure that you clicked the play button to join the webinar. And above the play button,
and sometimes you have to scroll up a little bit, but you should see that webinar chat, 5 p.m., to open up the chat.
Okay, so if you've opened up the chat window, if you can just please type in hello and what school you're from. Okay, so what's so nice about this being the intermediate class is we don't start at the very beginning. We don't start the basics. Some of the things that we're going to talk about as far as what's new in Google Classroom, well, if you've been in there and you've been using it, then you know some of these things aren't like brand new, but we do like to point them out. And first of all is the feature that you can move your post to the top of the stream. And to do that, you would click on the dots of where you've put your assignment, and then you would click move to top, because if you were using this last year, you saw that you could only edit or delete. So now the nice feature of you can move it to the top of the stream is nice. Helps with kind of organizing things. The feature of being able to reuse your post is nice. So that way if you click on the plus and then you chose reuse post, that's very nice feature. That's a feature I had to use tonight for setting up this class.
It's also really nice if you forgot to attach your documents from the drive, which we're going to do in the class, but you can just reuse it and then it gives you that option.
It's a great one. Okay, and some other things that some people don't realize that they can actually do this in Google Classroom. If you've taken the Google Forms class, it's a great, helpful class in Google. And that way, Google has made some improvements, as they're always doing. And it's made it where you can easily attach your Google form, and you can easily see what students have submitted the Google form in an assignment. And another nice feature is being able to pose a question to your students. And just recently, they made it where when you're doing that question, it could be multiple choice.
Right.
You know, I mean, they're always making these improvements in Google Classroom. So, and that posing a question to your class and getting some discussions going on between your students, or maybe it's like an exit ticket that you've got for your students where you're just checking some understanding. You would just click on the plus, and then you would click on the question mark, and then you get to make some decisions whether the students can see each other's answers or you as the teacher. You're the only one who wants to see their answers. So just some really cool things that Google has going on inside of Google Classroom. So for some people that have just joined us, please make sure that you just sign in with your name, just say hello and what school you're from in the chat window. So something else that is really nice in Google Classroom, and in this About tab, it's where the calendar feature. And so instead of me trying to explain it, we're going to show you a quick video about this.
Brand new feature in Google Classroom that many of us have been waiting for. It has finally arrived, and it is Google Calendar integration. So to access the calendar, you can do it two ways. You can come up here to the upper left and you can click on that triple line menu, and ta-da, there it is. Calendar is right there. So you can click on calendar and it brings you to a week's view, so you can see all of the assignments that are due. This was an assignment right here that I posted. It was called a test of calendar integration. I actually found out calendar was released sooner than I actually had access to it, but that assignment, since the last time I looked at it, was actually added to my calendar. So I'm really excited about this new update to Classroom. It's something that we've all been waiting for. What's nice is you can click on this drop-down menu right here. You can see I'm in all kinds of classes that my colleagues have made me a student of. So I could look at my chemistry class. I have a lab due today. Then I could filter it by my British literature class. I could see what's due there. This is my help desk class. Like I said, I can scroll over. I can see if anything else is due anytime soon. There's an assignment on the 7th that's due for the help desk students. So this is awesome, and like I said, it's something we've been waiting for. I'm super excited that it's finally here. The other way you can access your calendar, I'm going to head back over into classes, is I can go into a class. So I'm going to click on test class, and you can also access the calendar by clicking on your about page. So as you can see right here, I haven't added any materials yet because this was just simply a test class, but I can view it I can view the calendar right in Classroom by clicking there, and I am pushed over into the calendar view. So again, that's how you would access the calendar, from either your about page or from that triple line menu. Again, highly intuitive, easy to use for all of us busy teachers and students, and this is one more fabulous update to Classroom.
Okay, so that was just another great feature that Google has added. And so it's just lots of fun things that keep coming into Google Classroom. So now we're going to jump over into an actual Google Classroom and take a look at some certain features, like in the About section. What are some different things that teachers are doing in that section? Or maybe you have a co-teacher that you're working with, or some resource teachers, and they would like access to your classroom. And then we're also going to take a look at in the settings. How's it going over there?
Good. We have a chatty group. They're chatting between themselves, saying hello to each other. So
Well, super.
it's all good.
Okay. Okay.
We have one sleeping baby. You know, it's all good.
Well, it's a great evening then. Okay, so I'm going to jump into my Google Classroom, and I said I would go into the About section. And here in the About section, some teachers, they use it they put their general classroom information, and then down here, they also like to add, if there's special links that they're using with their class on a regular basis, they like to add those links down here. And then also if there's certain PDFs or certain documents that they're using, they like to add that in the About section, just as a nice quick reference for their students. And then also, maybe your students are working on a certain project and you've gathered some resources, maybe some maybe certain pictures or certain documents together, and you wanted them to have access to all these different images. And so you could put all those together in a Google Drive and then link that Google Drive for your students. So that way they would only have maybe view rights. They couldn't change or edit anything, but they could access those images and makes research much quicker for them on a certain project. Or maybe if you're working with colleagues on a collegial learning circle or something in a Google Classroom, and you could put certain resources that are all in a certain Google Drive here in the About section. So those are just some different ways to use this.
And it's nice because then you don't have to, I mean, you have a lot there, but if you have a few things, you don't have to scroll down and find it. Students can always just go to the About.
Exactly. And so to put things in here, you would just click on the add materials. It's just like creating an assignment, whether it's just going to be like a PDF or if it's going to be like something from my Google Drive. Maybe it was going to be that rainforest drive folder or a link to something. It's the same as like doing an assignment. Next is if I wanted to invite a teacher into my class, an additional teacher. As you can see up here at the top, myself and Larissa co-teach in this class. And to add a co-teacher, I click on the About, and teachers show up along this left-hand side. And so to invite a teacher, you click on Invite, and you can either type in the teacher's name or if you know their ID number. So I know that I want to invite Jennifer Kuhn. This is her. So then I would select and I would hit next. It says I can invite her. And over here it shows she's been invited. So that means the next time she goes into her Google Classroom, it's going to let her know that she's been invited, and she's also going to receive a notification into her Gmail one-to-one account in her email. And that way she finds out she's been invited. She has to accept the invitation, and then she'll show up here the same way Larissa's showing up as a co-teacher in the class. Okay? And now let's go into our settings in Google Classroom, because some people, they ask us, how did we get these pictures to show up in here?
Yours isn't dancing right now. Sometimes
No.
Rosie's is dancing.
Sometimes it's animated. So if I come over here and I click on these three lines, some people call it the hot dog, it's your main menu, and you go down to the bottom, I click on settings. You have two different things. You have change profile picture and you have Google account settings. We're going to click on profile picture. And so you can choose from upload a photo. Maybe you have a photo on your computer. Maybe you have some clip art or something, then you want to change your picture. Or,
come on, Rosie, do it.
Larissa loves this. So then if you wanted to do your webcam, some people have to uncover their webcam. You have to click allow, say close, and then hi, say take a snap. And if this is the one you like, you have to select it and say set as profile. I'm going to lose mine.
Peer pressure.
I know. And then this send email notifications down here. This is sending email notifications is a default setting, and it is sending your email notifications to your one-to-one account, your one-to-one Gmail account. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit later, but I just wanted to mention that to you. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my class, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to click on my hot dogs or my main menu. I'm going to scroll back up to my class, and you'll see that these are the classes that I'm enrolled in as a student. And then up here towards the top, these are my classes that I'm actually a teacher in. Okay, so now we're going to get you thinking in the in our webinar. So we've had several teachers asking us about doing some sort of collaboration in Google Classroom. And so we want you thinking during this next part when I'm talking about a feature in Google Classroom is, do you think this type of collaborative assignment would work in your classroom? How do you think it would work? What types of assignments could you use with this collaborative feature? Would you try it? And those sort of things. And we're going to ask you to post it in the chat. Okay? So I'm going to jump back over to my Google Classroom, and I'm going to be in here first as a teacher. And my assignment here, and you'll notice that one of the organizing features that Larissa and I have found is it's really helpful to number your assignments to get some sort of organization going along here. Because if you're not organizing them in some fashion, the kids will be scrolling through there. And if you say, look for the collaborative writing assignment, it's really hard if they're scrolling through in this stream. But if you say, look for assignment number 5, somehow that's a lot easier for them. So here in this assignment, I'm going to go ahead and open it so that way it might be a little bit easier to read. This is an assignment that I've got my learning target, and I'm just going to go through these steps because it helps to understand what we mean whenever we're turning this into a collaborative assignment. For this assignment, we're going to assign a partner, and they're going to work together to create an essay. We chose the topic of rainforest. And there's going to be a group leader between the 2 partners. And the group leader is going to create the new document. And then we're going to make sure that the group leader puts both partners' names in the name field of the document. And then that group leader is going to be the one that shares the document with the partner. And I'm going to model this for you in just a minute using the student account. Now that partner has to then go to their Google Drive to find the file. Then they're going to work on it together. And then in the end, the group leader, because the group leader is the one that created the Google Doc, the group leader will be the one that turns in the work. And so then I'll show you how that will work as far as the grading on the side of the teacher. Okay? Just we want you guys to be thinking about how this will all work, how this could possibly work in your classroom.
I'm going to post those steps in the chat.
Okay, super. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to the student side, and so that way you can see how this would work. So I have Sarah, and Sarah is a student. So Sarah's going to go into her Google Classroom. She sees her assignment, and she is the group leader. So she's going to open her assignment, and it says the group leader will create the new document. And so to create a new document, she has to click on Create, click on Docs. So it created it. She's going to open it so that way she can be working on it. And it said the next step as the group leader was she has to put the name of the partner she's working in. And she's going to be working with Joe. Just happens that Joe's last name is Student also. And just for your guys' information, Joe happens to be Larissa. And so Sarah and Joe are going to be working together. I'm going to jump back over here. So Sarah was the group leader. She created this document. She put both of their names in the file name. And Sarah, the group leader, is going to share the document with Joe. So Sarah, she comes over here to the sharing feature. This is when it's very nice because you don't have beginner students just working on documents anymore. So you're having to teach some more of those technical skills. And so you teach the students how to click on sharing. Have to type in Joe student. Pops right up. Click send. So now she's sending it over to Joe. And they're going to be working together. So remember, Joe has to know how to go to the drive. And these are other things that you're going to have to work with your students on. And so Joe and Sarah are going to be in here together. They're working on rainforest. And they're going to find some information on the rainforest. And then in the assignment, it says the group leader, which was Sarah, because she's the one who created the document, she's the one that's going to turn in this document. So after they finished all their work, so we're pretending that they finished all their work, Sarah's going to press this turn in button.
And I think that's really important. They're still turning in through Google Classroom. They're not sharing with the teacher or anything. They're turning it in Google Classroom.
Exactly. So many times, because when people start using the share button, they think, well, now I'm just going to share it with the teacher. Yes, good point.
And through Google Classroom, it does that for you, but then you have everything in one place.
Exactly. So now, Sarah and Joe finished. Sarah, she created it. She's got this turn in button. She's going to turn it into the teacher. It says, I've attached the work, and she's going to turn it in. Okay. Now, Sarah can also add a private comment down here for the teacher. So maybe she just wants to remind the teacher that she worked with Joe on this project. She just wants to remind the teacher of this. You know, and this is also a good communication tool because it is private. Maybe Sarah wants to let the teacher know that of how the work went between her and Joe. It's private. Joe doesn't know about it. So it's another good communication tool between Sarah and the teacher. But remember, Joe also has this feature too. So now that Sarah's turned the work in, I said I would jump over to the teacher side. If you have any questions through this process, please make sure that you jump into the chat window, and because we never know if this is going to be clarified good enough. So I'm over here in my Google Classroom, and I have one student who's turned it in. So I'm going to click on the done. I see that Sarah turned in her work. Sarah noted here that she worked with Joe. That helps me out. So I'm going to click to open up the work. I see Sarah and Joe's names up here, so that tells me they did follow directions, and I can see whose work it is. And this is whenever Larissa and I like to take time to mention to you that this is a good way to add your comments and give students feedback right here inside of Google Classroom and on the Google Doc. So maybe I want to remind Sarah and Joe that if this is their title, I just highlight it, click on comments, come over here to the side and remind them to center the title. So that way they can give comments and feedback right inside of the Google Doc. And then it's automatically shared between Sarah and Joe. I don't have to do any sharing because that has already been done. And I can go ahead and close this. It's automatically. Now, also, if I wanted to issue a grade, I could do that right here. Work was done. I would click in here. I could give them a grade. If I did not want my grade to be out of 100 and I wanted to change this, I could change this to maybe it's a 4-point grading scale. So I wanted to change this to a 4. I would type 4, hit tab, and it says, are you sure you want to change this? Yes, I'm going to update it. So right now I feel that Sarah and Joe have a 1. And I'm going to return this. Oh, isn't this so important? Returning it.
Yeah. Are you going to grade Joe at the same time?
Such a good point. So I also need to grade Joe down here because Sarah and Joe did the same work.
And they won't see your comments till you return it to them.
And they can't get their work back.
Yeah.
So I've graded it. That's check marked, and I'm going to click return. This popped up because it looked like Joe hadn't submitted anything, but we know he really did because it's collaborative work. Now I can give a comment to both of them. Please read my comments and complete the assignment. It's another way to give your students some feedback.
We have someone has left a comment. I think it's about time to comment, but that this allows for them to work together on a project outside of the school day, and it's worked for him. That was Chris.
Yes. So please take some time right now to post in the discussion board in the chat window what type of assignments could you possibly use this collaborative feature with. Do you think this would work in your classroom? And then we'll move on.
Okay, we have a busy group here. So we had the lab report and having a partner review different components of the lab, meeting outside of school, a group presentation, dialogues, a jigsaw for the central ideas. Excellent. We had one question. Can you revise, once you make comments, can the student revise and resubmit?
That's a great question. So yes, after you have returned, it's very important. That's a very important step. Once you have returned that student's work, yes, they can always revise and resubmit. But I'm going to get back over to that. Because lots of times students will say, I can't get to my work. I can't get to my work. And that's because lots of times you might put a grade in, but for some reason that check mark is not there, or you didn't click the return and go ahead with those few other steps. So for example, I have a student here, so I had to click the check mark, do the return it, and actually go through with all those steps to make sure that their work got returned to them. So it's very important that those steps get done. Then the students can always resubmit. But on the student side, if a student submits something and it doesn't get returned to them, they can also access it. So there's a few ways to get around that.
I have one other good point. that it's very easy to see in a Google Doc. It's very well documented who added to the projects. So exactly, you can look at that revision history and see who wrote each component.
Yes, yes. What they're talking about is, so I'll pull up, this is Sarah. And for Sarah, this was her Google Doc. And what they're referring to here, so glad this is the intermediate class.
I know.
We have lots of fun with this group. If you go to File, and right here for See Revision History, you can see over here who has actually done what in a Google Doc. And I'll tell you what, for our group, for the teachers that I work with, we have used this many times to see who has done what in a document because it color codes over here for different people. And then if you actually need to see even more information, if you click down here, it will give you even more information. So it's very helpful when you have a lot of people working on a document.
And also for classroom management or just digital citizenship, that everything the students write, no matter what it is can be traceable, can be read.
Exactly. Exactly. It's nice to show them. So we just like to show, sometimes you don't always, especially with Google, think outside the box. Don't always think about what you're being provided there. Try to extend what's there and make it work for you and what you're wanting inside your classroom. So now we're going to look at some different things that you're going to be working on the online PD component. And one of the first things we're going to look at is you're going to be converting some files, because as we know, when you're working in the Google environment, some of us might have some Word documents, but for it to work successfully in Google Classroom, you might need to convert those over to a Google Doc. Or if you're working with PowerPoint files, you'll need to convert those over to Google Slides. And so that's something that we will have you doing in the online PD component. And then another activity will have you attaching the, documents from your Google Drive. And then we will also have you creating an assignment, and where your students will have to make a copy of whatever you're attaching for each student. And this was that feature that Larissa was mentioning earlier, where let's say you happen to attach something, but you forgot to select this, make a copy for each student. It's really nice to use that feature of reuse a post. Instead of trying to retype everything, just choose reuse a post and then select make a copy for each student. That's very nice. How's it going over there, Larissa?
Good.
Going okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to jump over and show you some examples in Google Classroom of what some of these activities will look like. Also, in the online component, we're going to have you working with Google Slides and using a PDF. Let me find this. And so I'm trying to find this. Okay. So here we had a poem, and we're going to have you where you use a PDF through Google Slides, and it's where students are able to work on a PDF while it's in Google Slides. And so one of the things that we're going to be having you do is choose a PDF that you want to convert over to a Google Slide so that students can actually write on it. And that this is an example of an activity where students would need to write on a document. And we know lots of times if we have these PDFs, students aren't able to write on them in Google Classroom. But if you convert that PDF over to a Google Slide, then they can, because they can use maybe the circle tool or the shapes tool to identify certain words. And so if I wanted them to find synonyms of certain words, they could do that here. And by using certain tools on the toolbar. So that would be one way that you could get students using this. Or if I wanted students to use the text box to give me a synonym to rotten, spoiled, they could do that. Sorry, that turned out so small for you guys. Then they could do that. That way they're demonstrating their understanding. And I often found in my classroom, this is something my students could help me with. You know, if you're a 4th grade class or up, lots of times our students could help convert these PDFs over to a Google slide. So that's another one of the things that we're going to be showing you in the online class. So now we get to go over to the fun stuff.
Oh, good.
I know.
Excited.
So,
yeah, the chat's been very quiet, so they're ready.
okay. So this is the exciting thing that we always like. And we mentioned it just a little bit in the intro class. But Google is constantly upgrading and improving their app. Just last week, I saw where they made even more improvements with their app. And so this is just going to be a quick video on how you could be using the app in your classroom. But we do want you thinking about, can you think of any ways that maybe you as the teacher could be using Google Classroom app, or maybe how your students could be using the Google Classroom app? And then we'll come back and we'll talk about it just a little bit. But this is going to be the video on this. In this video, we're going to be looking at uploading video and pictures to Google Classroom using our iPad or our smartphones. So first thing, you must have the Google Classroom app downloaded from the App Store or from the Google Play Store. And then next, you just take your video or your pictures. And so we're just going to go to our photos. I'm going to click on the share button at the bottom. Click on next. I'm going to slide over. And Google Classroom is one of your choices here. Now, if you haven't chosen Google Classroom before, you would go to More. You would go down until you see Google Classroom. You would click on the toggle and it would turn green. Click Done. Okay. So now that you've chosen the video or the picture you want to select, you click on Google Classroom. Now I'm logged in as a student and I'm going to select the assignment that I want to attach this movie to. I want to attach this to assignment number 5, Rainforest. And I'm going to click Attach. Now that the video or picture has been attached, I'm going to open up my Google Classroom app. I'm going to go to the class, open it. That was assignment number 5. These are the directions. I'm going to go to your work. And down below, I can see that my work is attached, my movie is now attached, and I've written in the private comment. So I'm going to resubmit the work. Now I've gotten the green check mark saying that everything is done. Okay, so something that we always like to let you know about is it is very helpful if you're going to be using an app on maybe your iPad, any of your smartphones, is that a tablet, is that it's very helpful to have all of the apps on the Google Suite downloaded. You know, Google Classroom, Google Chrome, Google Drive. If you're going to be using Docs or Slides, it's good to have that app also downloaded. and to have fun with it. That was just one example of the way you could be using it, but we would like for you right now in the chat window, in the discussion window, to post a way that maybe you could use the Google Classroom app. Maybe a way your students, or maybe a way you as the teacher could use the Google Classroom app.
All right, we've gotten a lot of ideas. Shared responsibility, motivational messages, post about a Regents review, and then a lot of advantages for the students. They can work on the bus, and they do. Some of you have kids that do that. The learning is on their time. Shared responsibility. So great. And then also really personalize. And I think that's really important. Like you're personalizing, the work for the students or your posts. And I think that goes a long way. They love to hear about their teacher or other people.
Yes. And, I was really surprised, and I'm sure oftentimes we will hear in here about, and maybe it's just because that was a student side of the app, how you as the teacher can easily get in there and grade your students' work. You as the teacher can get in there and comment.
Yes, we had one right now that while they're waiting for their kids to finish soccer practice. Yes.
Yes. You can give your students the feedback more easily without having to have your laptop there in front of you. So the quick access of having an app right there to be able to access your students' work makes it much easier for you as the teacher also. Or maybe there's something that you want to capture on a phone and add it to your classroom. Just having that photo capability.
Yeah, someone just put that, like take pictures of student projects and post it for the class. That's a great idea.
Yeah, yeah. So moving into the next component we have here, oftentimes we have teachers asking us about this. So we've added this. This is our tip of the day. You might remember me mentioned this earlier. Lots of times in Google Classroom, you'll be getting notifications, but those notifications are going to your RCSD one-to-one Gmail account. And so unless you're checking that Gmail account, you don't know that you're getting some notifications, especially from Google Classroom, or about other things that are going on in your Google Drive. So some teachers have asked, how can I combine all of my email to be in one central location, one location? And so this is just a quick look at it. The specific step-by-step directions are in the online resources section in our class, but I'll just quickly go through this so that way some people go, oh, where was that button again? Oh, I don't know what they're referring to in the directions. And so whenever you're in your Google account, if you open up a new tab, you'll see the app launcher, or what some people call it, looks like a waffle. And if you click on your mail icon, and then once you get that open, you'll see all over to the far right, it looks like a gear. And so if you click on the gear, then if you go down to settings, you'll get a new window that opens up. And in your settings window, you've got these blue labels across the top. And you're gonna click on forwarding and POP IMAP, but you want to click on the forwarding. And then you're going to fill out the information because you want to forward your incoming mail. And one of the other options is you want to archive your district mail. And this is for your district RCSD one-to-one Gmail. Okay? And so you'll go through lots of steps, and it's all there in the handout that's in the online class. And it's very helpful. Some people they're very appreciative of having everything in one central location. And so we just wanted to throw that tip of the day out for you. And so as our ticket out the door, oh, wait a minute, wait. You know, sometimes in Google Classroom, we mention about all those new things that are going on. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw a teaser out there and then jump back. We mentioned all those new things.
Better be good, Rosie.
But you guys are the intermediate
Oh, yeah, that's
users.
good, yeah.
You guys are the intermediate users. And as an intermediate user, you're also using Google Classroom. And as a user, you're finding things that you want added. You're finding things that you want changed. And it's very important that to click on this question mark. This is where you can see the new things, but you can also give Google feedback. So if you click on send feedback and type in this box exactly what you want them to do. Type it in there, click next. They might have a question or two, and then send it to them. Because how do you think all these changes are happening in Google Classroom? Because teachers are giving them the feedback. That's so important. And I didn't realize that at the beginning, but whenever I really started questioning them and seeing this, that's how those changes are happening, because they're hearing from teachers like you. One last other thing is, and I'm not going to demonstrate this, but we do mention it in the class, is that it's getting towards the end of the year. Some of our teachers ask us about archiving a class. And so I clicked on the hot dogs, and I come down to the bottom. And this is where you can find your archived classes. But also, if I wanted to archive a class, I could come to a class that I teach. I could click on this, and I could archive it. Okay? So that's just a quick little glance at a couple of things.
Tip number 2 of the day.
There you go. And that went really fast, I know. So, got to jump back over to...
While you're doing that, someone had a really good note about the app, that they have to not assign assignments until class is started because their kids are finishing the assignments before they even start class. Mike, I love that problem. That's awesome. That's a great quote.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so the ticket out the door is to post in the discussion board in the chat window one thing you've learned or a question you have. And Larissa and I will be here for about another 5 minutes or so. So a question you've learned or something you might have a question about.
Great. And again, we'll see you online because you have a week to complete the activities in the online component. So a lot of people get started right away because they're all jazzed up, but
there you go.
You have a week to do that component.
Okay. Otherwise, thanks for joining us, and we hope you have a good evening.
Good night.